The wise man says, okay, I need you to take that cow, I need you to shove it off the cliff. Okay, big splat. You've probably heard that positive thoughts create positive outcomes, or in other words, success. I'm here to tell you that not all positive thoughts are created equal, and some lines of positive thinking actually hold us back and limit success and limit positive outcomes more than you would initially think. I'm going to tell a quick story that will help highlight this point. So stay tuned, watch the whole video, and at the end, we'll talk about different ways to have positive thought that will bring success in your life. All right, so once upon a time, there was a wise man. And this wise man's job was to travel the countryside, help families, help individuals, help businesses. He gave great advice. And this wise man was getting old and he was getting tired and he needed someone to come with him to be a successor. So he chose a young blacksmith's apprentice who was someone that he was able to have these really deep philosophical conversations with. So the wise man, on his very first job, took the apprentice to a family. This family lived out in the countryside. The father of the family was injured in the most recent war. He could barely walk. He had, crutches and a cane. The issue with this family is they had lots of kids, and the dad couldn't work. There was no ability for him to generate an income other than a cow that they had outside of their front yard. So the wise man takes the apprentice through on the outskirts of the city, and they walk through this beautiful meadow covered in flowers, and they see this dilapidated shack on the hill. They go up to the shack, and they can see there's all the clothesline, all the kids' clothes are drying in the wind, and there's this cow tied to the fence, and the cow has a ginormous bag of milk, but it is sickly, and it doesn't look like it's doing really good. So the wise man and the apprentice knock on the door. The mother of the family invites them in, and they sit down with the mother and the father on the couch, and they start talking about, what are some of the issues that their family's facing. And one of the things that they both share is the only way that they can generate an income is their oldest son milks the cow and then travels and takes all that milk into the nearby city and exchanges it for thread or cheese or bread and some other really just basic items, and then he brings it all the way back. He does that every single day, twice a day, right? And so the father said, this is great and it's so good. I'm positive that this will work out for us. This system works. Our cow is getting really, really sick. So I'm trying to figure out how we can buy a new cow because this cow is probably going to die. And I don't really know. We don't have the money or resources to get another cow. Can you help us? The wise man sits there and he thinks for a minute. He looks at the apprentice and he says, yes, we can help. And you'll have your answer. You'll know exactly what to do in about 3 days. They leave and they stand up by the fence and they start talking. The wise man explains, I want you to take the cow tied to the fence, and I want you to lead that cow back behind the house. Back behind the house, there's this deep ravine with a river. So he does as he's told, and they walk back to the ravine. The wise man says, okay, the next thing, are you sure you really, really, really want to help this family? The apprentice says, of course I do. The wise man says, okay, I need you to take that cow, I need you to shove it off the cliff. Okay, big splat, kill it. And the apprentice looks at him and says, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And the wise man continues to explain, do you want to help this family? The apprentice says, yes. The wise man says, then I need you to push the cow right off the cliff. So he takes the cow and he pushes it off the cliff and the cow falls. Not trying to get too graphic, but that's what happens. And so the wise man and the apprentice, they take off. And as they're walking back through that valley in the meadow back to the city, the apprentice is so distraught and he's so discouraged. Weeks went by and the apprentice felt so guilty and so down. He told the wise man, I can't do this anymore. And he actually stopped. He went back to working as a blacksmith. And he worked for the next 2 years. And he saved up as much money as he could on the side in order to buy a new cow for this family. So the 2 years go by, he saves the money, he purchases the cow, and he's on his way back. And he, travels back through that valley, that meadow, and he notices that a lot of the flowers are gone. It's not as pretty as it once was. And they get up on the crest right to where the shack was, and he notices that there's this big, beautiful house. It's new, and there's a big fence, and there's a gardener working outside. And the apprentice is distraught because he knows that family lost their land. He knows that they lost their house and this ancestral land that they've lived on for hundreds of years. So in his shame, he walks up to the gardener and he says, "Hey, do you happen to know what happened to the family who lived in this house?" And the gardener kind of shakes his head and says, "No, the man who lives here has lived here for generations. It's their family land." The apprentice thought, "There's no way that's possible, right? This is the guy who was poor. No, no, no. I'm talking about the man who was injured in the war. He's got so and so kids." He says his name, and the gardener says, "Yeah, that's my employer." He ties the cow off on the fence, goes up to the front door, knocks, and the man opens the door and says, "Oh my gosh, you're the apprentice. It was the strangest thing. You guys came and talked to us about getting a new cow, and you left and said we'd have our answer in a couple days. Well, my son went out to milk the cow a couple hours later, and the cow got loose, and the cow jumped off the back of the cliff. I was devastated. I didn't know what we were going to do. And so I went outside and I was just thinking and thinking, and I realized I had to do something different. So I went back inside and I drew up a whole plan. And all my kids were going to pick flowers and we were going to deliver them in town and we would charge a certain price. Well, come to find out, people love this idea. We ended up making so much money that now we have 5 different flower locations, brick and mortar stores around this city and others where we deliver flowers and we get paid for it. It's incredible. And this is the wealthy. I could have never have imagined that this is the wealth that I could attain in this life. I guess I didn't need your help after all. So let's talk about it now. Most people are taught that if you just think in a positive way, everything's going to work out. But unfortunately, life is not like that. So the family in the story stayed poor for years, not because they didn't work hard, not because they weren't trying to be positive. It's because they were comfortable in the system that has kept them stuck. The resource they had gave them just enough to make them feel like things were okay. But things actually haven't been okay in that family for a long time. Let's actually apply this, okay? So I want you to ask yourself, the situation I'm in, the job that I have, the relationship that I have, the system that I'm doing things now, am I comfortable? And am I just trying to be positive to put off an inevitable change? No one likes change. So I want you to ask yourself that question, and I want you to be honest, and I want you to come up with, what is something in my life that is comfortable, but not necessarily as good for me? Here's 3 takeaways I want you to remember from this video. Number 1, comfort can keep you stuck. Being positive and trying to latch onto a system that doesn't serve me anymore is only going to make things worse for you. Number 2, fear and disruption are actually really powerful motivators. Now, it's not that we have to be, scared and thinking in a negative way for this to motivate. In fact, positive thinking, when it is put in the right category, when we're thinking this new change is possible, I can do this, that's when positive thinking is helpful. And 3, thinking in a positive way isn't enough sometimes. Sometimes we have to think in a more productive way, right? And so I want you to think about those things. I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you liked it, please give us a like, subscribe. It really helps the channel. It helps the algorithm recognize our content. And we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.